Greetings, I'm Rob Chappers.
I'm the captain.
And I'm Martin.
And we're here to talk about me. Or in particular, my incredible signature amplifier from Victory Amplification, made by this amazing gentleman, Martin Kidd, for whom I am entirely grateful to.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, what was the inspiration behind this amplifier?
You.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, I was very familiar with your previous work.
Yeah.
Loved what you did, and was honoured when you approached me and said, let's do an amp, because, wow, it's an awesome thing to do. And the coolest thing was, apart from getting the 3 prototypes, and this is prototype number 3, the coolest thing was I could do anything I wanted to do. Imagine being asked that question. Let's make an amp. What do you want? You can do anything at all. You can have 15 channels. You can have 7 kinds of reverb. We'll just make it because we want to make the best amp for you.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a responsibility.
It is.
And having demonstrated probably every amp under the sun with my buddy Lee here, and even before Lee, I had enough experience of recording on sessions and with my various bands and in demonstrations that I had a lot of different tones I wanted to capture. Now, without mentioning lots of other amp brands and names and models, for me there were 3 specific amplifier models that I wanted to really get the soul of in what we made.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Obviously, you know, knowing Rob, and Rob told me about the Victory thing, and I thought it was interesting that the first prototype that you went for, I think like most guitarists would do, it's like kid in a candy shop.
Oh,
if I can have all the features, I better have
I
them.
will.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's my amplifier that's essentially like it's got more features than any other amplifier you've ever seen, which they made you and you toured with.
Yeah, I toured it.
And you got to the end of that and went, I actually only used 2 of the features on the amplifier.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Martin's amps are so, they're so much like a chameleon. So many different. I went Arnie for you then. It is like the chameleon. It's a blender. It has lots of different tones in it, and I didn't need a couple of the knobs and actually a bunch of the features on the amp. And for me, it was voiced a bit dark, and I like having that brightness if I need it, so that I can get out of the way of the vocalist, me in my case, or the bass in the band when we're recording.
Yeah.
And so Proto 1 was brilliant, had a wicked rhythm tone, didn't have enough top end and had more features than I needed. So manufacturing it would have been quite expensive, and although I wasn't, I'm not building this particularly worrying about the money, because I just want the best amp I can get out of you. We made another prototype.
Indeed.
Prototype 2 was awesome. Yeah, it was a lot closer. Tell me about that particular amp.
It was just, you know, I took on board what you said about the things that you didn't use, and got rid of them, really. And it's difficult to, when somebody says I need something that's brighter, you know, I need more of this, that can mean one thing, because it might mean treble, it might be upper mid, which, and so you've got to, but it's got to be guitar friendly. I mean, you could make something that's got stacks of brightness, but it's not nice, and so it's I try and sort of almost envisage, I'm going to sound like a bit of a hippie now, but envisage a sound.
Yeah.
You can see it, not very, you know, not in glorious Technicolor, but you can kind of see a sound in your head. Yeah. And so what I was trying to imagine, and interestingly, because I did a lot of fiddling with your first prototype before you got it, and when you said it's quite dark, I thought, is it? But when I got it back for some reason, and played through it again, having had a break from it, I realised, yeah, actually it is quite dark sounding.
It wasn't just me then, that's good.
No, it wasn't. With the latest Silverback, I think there may still be a little bit of tweaking that Rob and I will do. I think you'll decide soon.
Yeah, this is it. I mean,
it's quite new off the press, isn't it?
Yeah, well, today. I mean, basically what I've been doing is getting a prototype and going on tour. So the first one I took on tour, the second one I took on tour, and I've just literally got prototype 3. There are some bits to work on still.
Yep.
Some of the aesthetics hasn't got the trapdoor on top. Don't you trapdoor? Anyone who was born in the 70s like myself, I know about that. And the 2 hands we're going to have on top so that it looks, because otherwise it plays on my OCD. One of the most enjoyable things... One of the most enjoyable things about working with Martin is explaining the tones in my head, the players that influence me, and watching him kind of put together like Lego the components in his head and sort of wander off mumbling about capacitors while I'm kind of going, could it have this?
Work? You know, you said... Well, I say, how does it work? I guess if you're an electronics engineer and a good one, that's how it... But you said, I see a sound, or I have a sound in my head, and I visualise how that's going to look on a board, I guess you're
not
sort of
really.
saying.
No, I visualise... I suppose it's kind of a sort of a very rough, grainy, black and white spectrum analyzer. Perhaps.
Wow.
Sounds dreadful. That sounds really pretentious.
No, I like it.
But, you know, it might be interesting for some reason.
That's very interesting, because I remember when I first went with you to the facility, I'm going to call it the facility, we had Silverback 1 under the scope, and you looked at it and said, that's quite reminiscent of and listed a bunch of amplifiers it looked similar to on the oscilloscope.
Yeah.
And that blew my mind.
In the Terminator movie, everything he looks at is like red laser, like an information coming up. Is that what happens in your similar in your brain about too much bass, not enough treble, they need an extra preamp tube?
Yeah. So you can, but you see a picture of how the sweep would be under an oscilloscope.
Not so much, because you look at a wave form on an oscilloscope, but like a spectrum analyzer,
This is so awesome.
You'll see, and it's. I mean, my ears might be odd.